Let's go. Okay, so welcome back. We've missed a couple of weeks due to personal issues on my side. I'll admit that. Won't go into that, but there's just been some personal issues that have happened over the last couple of weeks.
These things happen.
Yeah. But we're back with smiles on our faces. We've lost count of the episodes, so let's just say this is episode whatever. But we're going to talk about males in pop culture and how they're perceived as far as victims and females being the aggressor. So this has come from me. This is my subject matter. And it's only because I have a dirty little secret. And that dirty little secret is I like to watch Hallmark.
I admit to having watched a Hallmark movie or two in my time.
Yeah, well, I kind of binge watch it. But it's part of lockdown does happen, but I have been binge watching it. Now, they've also, in the Hallmark romantic movies, I won't go into the reason why I like watching because I hate rom-coms, but I won't go into the reason why. In the romantic Hallmark movies, they've got this pretty female character and this attractive male character, and throughout the whole movie they're chasing each other, and at the end they get together, which is a fabulous little story. And that's why all these romantic Hallmark movies go. In a lot of them, one or both of them are in relationships and they fall in love with each other while still in the relationships, and nobody says anything that's wrong. Now, let's face it, Hallmark is directly directed at women. It is a whole platform. Yeah, I know probably a lot of men do like to watch it, but the demographic is women.
Absolutely.
And I don't feel like anyone's questioning, even though nothing happens until the people break up, and then at the end of the movie, this magical couple get together, they still fall in love in the process, to the point of there's flirting and there's that shyness and there's that coyness that is written in all romantic movies where you're like, it's childish. I know, as I said, dirty little secret. But there is also part of Hallmark, murder mysteries. Now, these are usually a series. It's not just one movie, and there is different actresses from that we've known since even our childhood. So there's Candace Cameron Bure, who was in Full House as a child. There's another girl who was, and I do forget her name, so please forgive me, who is the middle child in Party of Five. That's got her own murder mystery series. Winnie Cooper from The Wonder Years. God, you're really like pulling my brains. So there's these famous TV characters from the 80s and 90s that are now in these Hallmark movies playing not themselves, just playing a normal character that happens to be interested in solving crime, particularly murder. What I found out since lockdown, or what I've figured out, what I discovered during lockdown and binge watching my dirty little secret, is the one thing I'm actually proud of with Hallmark is that, and I think it's about 50-50, that the murderer is a woman,
That's interesting.
all for different reasons. Now,
Mm,
the only reason why I'm saying I'm proud of Hallmark for this is because their demographic is women.
mm,
So they're not trying to, they've got this strong, independent woman who likes to solve crime. The their sidekick is the romantic male.
Who happens to be tall and attractive, right?
Yes, of course.
Yes. Yes.
Tall, dark, and attractive.
Just checking. Just checking.
But he's usually the sidekick.
Mhm.
He can, a lot of the times he's a police officer, a lot of times he's got, you know, crime in his background, but he's the sidekick to this strong female lead.
Mm,
So they're still portraying women as strong, independent people, but 50% of the time, the murderer is a female, and 50% of the time, the murderer is a male. And the victims range from male to female, same ratio. And it's all for different reasons. It's never for the same reason. It's never for, you broke my heart, you cheated on me. It's nothing like that. It's all for different reasons, and not one of them is because it was the male's fault.
Interesting.
Which and I actually found that extremely interesting because of the demographic that Hallmark are trying, that reaches out to. So for the other females out there that have got their dirty little secrets watching Hallmark movies, I think it is extremely good because of the way female characters have treated male characters in the past. And it was something that you and I were talking about before we started recording, and I'll mention two series, and it was two sitcoms. It was Reba, starring Reba McEntire, and a lot of the time they were hitting and slapping and pushing around the two main male characters. And at the time I laughed and thought it was funny, but thinking back on it, I'm thinking, if the tables were turned.
This is something, and we were talking about this before, and it is something that a lot of people do, and we've talked about this even in men's rights groups before, and a lot of people have said, yeah, actually, I've laughed at that sort of thing too, and then thought, hold on a minute, why is that okay? Why am I doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they did it to a female, this is the worst thing. If they did it to a female, I think even those of us on this side of the fence, on our side of the fence, would like, you can't do that.
That's
Where
right.
we do laugh when when it happens to a male. Another one, which was the world's most popular sitcom, bar MASH, was Seinfeld, with the female character Elaine, who was famous for pushing and like violently pushing the characters. And it was even a contention in the show where they had one episode where they had the doppelganger Seinfeld gang, but they had this doppelganger gang, but they were nicer. And she was like, no, I'm leaving Seinfeld and joining these guys. And she joined these guys, and she pushed one of them the way she does, and they didn't like it. They were like, no, you can't do that.
I think that's good because it shows there was at least some self-awareness on the part of the writers, at least making comment on something that they had as a running gag.
And I do, it was sort of like, I think, and you mentioned it, we're preconditioned through pop culture to laugh at this, especially in our generation growing up with Seinfeld, which was so popular. And I don't think I've met anyone who can say that they didn't watch one single episode.
That's right. I've only watched a few, but yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's anybody who ever wouldn't have watched any.
Yeah. So I think we've got to start of all channels, of all movie makers that are bringing awareness
Mm,
to females being able to be the aggressor,
mm,
is a channel that is targets demographic is women. I think is
That's
fabulous.
interesting that Hallmark does that. And as you know, I'm a history geek, and I've been thinking about this just in the last few months, actually. And I think historically, most societies were much more open to the idea of women being aggressive and violent than ours is. We tend to view violence as something that's male, and I think that's actually something of an historical aberration. That's something I'll be looking into before, or something that I'll be looking into later and writing more about. But that really does seem to be the case from what I've seen. So it is a relatively recent thing, probably even post World War II, I suspect.
Hmm.
The thing is with the mass media from the 1960s onwards, in particular.
Yeah, I don't think it's a. I think we've got a. The fact that Hallmark are doing this, as I said, I think is fabulous. But I think we've got to start portraying women factually. Like
Mhm. Yes.
we okay, another dirty little secret. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm actually admitted into this one. Is I like watching the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And
Can't say I've ever seen that one. Sorry.
no, that's okay. But during my binge watch, I've watched all of them like twice now, and I'm sort of over it. So I thought I would try a different Real Housewives series,
Mm,
but I didn't want to know characters. So a lot of the characters I've seen on through pop culture and Entertainment Tonight type shows and everything. The one I hadn't heard about was Real Housewives of Potomac, which is a suburb, a quite rich suburb near Washington, D.C. And the last two seasons, so I'm on season 5. So last year, one of the husbands was charged with sexual assault or sexual misconduct of tapping a cameraman on the bum or squeezing a cameraman's bum. Now, the charges were dropped. The way he's portrayed, he's an Australian guy.
mhm.
The way he's portrayed, he's a douche.
That's how they're casting him in the show. You mean those into because they manipulate the video to do that. Yeah.
Maybe not. There's been some questionable things that he has admitted to that he's done.
Right.
I do think he's a douche. Like even when he
Okay.
opens his mouth, it's like, oh, shut up. But it could be due to editing as well. So I will not take that in. I will take that into account.
And they may make it worse. There may be an underlying problem, and they make it worse. Yeah.
Saying that, the charges were dropped, and he's still on the show now.
Right.
The Real Housewives, as an organization, it's in several. We've had our own. We've had Real Housewives of Melbourne, Real Housewives of Sydney. They've had Real Housewives of Auckland. They've got it in England.
Okay.
So it's all over the world. If this happened, it would reflect badly on the show if they kept him around,
Mm-hmm.
because it was one of their cameramen.
Right. Okay.
I'm not saying he's innocent.
Yep.
And I hate to say this, part of me actually doesn't think he is.
Yeah.
Because the way he is portrayed.
It is hard to say, especially these days. More and more is being allowed to go with TV. So it'd be really interesting. They could still be. They could have allowed him to stay on the show because it's such a ratings grab. And they
massive,
may have paid off the cameraman.
massive
compensated.
ratings grab.
Yeah.
But there's also been parts of the show where, you know, they've grabbed each other's boobs I'll put that back onto Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, where they grab each other's boobs and everything. To me, that's just as much sexual misconduct and sexual assault as this Michael character grabbing the cameraman's bum. Not saying it's right, but again, it's a different, they're playing men, you know, this is not okay for men, but this is okay for women.
Yeah. So again, it's a different standard, which is what I'm personally opposed to. I just like, I think if we want legal and social equality of men and women, we have to view everyone with the same standard.
Exactly.
If it's not okay to hit people, then it's not okay to hit anybody.
Right. And I'm glad you brought this up. So in this season, or the season I'm currently watching, which I think there's another season coming out next month, and there has been a physical fight between a couple of the women, and one of the women has been charged with second-degree physical assault, or whatever the correct terminology of it is. Now, I think I even said this in our very first show. I do not agree with violence. 100%. Don't hit anyone. I don't condone it. I do understand where somebody can get pushed to the point, though. We've all got a limit. We've all got that limit where we can choose to step away from, or we choose to stay hoping that that limit doesn't get crossed. Watching the episode where this altercation took place, again, not condoning the fight, the physical fight, but I understood why this person lashed out.
Yeah. It's interesting that it's gone to the point of criminal charges, actually.
Yeah. Oh, it's like literally, I was watching this just as before we met up tonight. So that was just given, and then I was like, God, I've got to go and do this Zoom thing. So I do find it that these new pop culture and new shows that we watch are very much portraying women in real light, but they're still making the female the victim.
Yes, which may become increasingly difficult for them, because in this case they're portraying women who are being violent, but then they have to somehow spin it as to the woman being a victim. That's right. It's very difficult. We're actually closing in on 20 minutes, actually. So we probably should wrap up shortly.
You have a couple of TV shows that you wanted to mention.
I'd like to continue that with another episode of pop culture.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, I think that'd be the best way to do it. Yeah. So let's maybe next time we can even, if nothing, if there's no brow college or anything in the next week or so, perhaps we can.
It's been 2 months. I'm surprised.
I know. Great. Well, thanks, Nat.
Okay. Not a problem. You take care. Click like, subscribe to both me and Rob, because we're both fabulous. And we'll catch up on our next episode next week. I promise no more dramas.
Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.